Welcome to the Serene-ish podcast. We're two friends trying for serenity, but life happens.
I'm Larissa.
And I'm Brenda.
And we're glad you're here.
Each week we share honest conversations about navigating everyday life, faith, relationships, soul care, and all the messy in-betweens.
You'll hear reflections, a little laughter, and hopefully encouragement to find peace in your own journey, even if it's just serene-ish. Well, hi everybody. Welcome to episode 5. We're talking about spirituality on the margins. This is something Brenda and I are really excited to have a conversation about. And in our lives, we have found that spiritual formation and faith community often happens outside of or adjacent to traditional forms of church. So we just want to say welcome to you, and we're so glad you're joining Brenda and I in this conversation. Okay, so real quick, Brenda, if people want to find us and we're not at church on a Sunday, where might you be?
Okay, so right now we actually have a faith community that meets in our home. Mm-hmm. And so on a Sunday morning, that's where you'll find us, is with that faith community. We're on this very similar journey. And I say faith community because it's not just like a church service like in the house. It looks a little bit different than that. But we also take a Sunday a month off. We call it our Sabbath Sunday. So on those Sundays, you will probably find us, like as of right now, on a long hike somewhere. Our family and some friends, we're just putting in some miles up some mountain or on some trail and enjoying some food and drink when we get to the top and turning around and coming back. And that's kind of church for us on those particular Sundays.
That sounds so fun. Wait, what food and drinks do you guys bring in? Like everyone has some stuff in their backpacks and you bring it out?
Well, okay, so this last one, we have some snacks that we took along the way, and at the peak there's this restaurant. It's a lot of the hikers and like when it's snowing, the skiers will be up there. And that's where they can go and you get some burgers or sandwiches, you get a beer, something like that. And so for this last one, that's where we were at. We actually brought our own sandwiches, some, good old peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And then we just bought a beer from the shop and we just sat down and enjoyed it and checked out the views and made our way back down. So yeah, keep it pretty simple, enjoy things. And it really does. And, we're communing as we're walking. We're having conversations, sometimes as a group. Sometimes we end up pairing off. We stop along the way. We're looking at the views. Every now and again, someone comes up with this really deep question everybody's wrestling with. And then somebody, farts along the way. And now we are all laughing about it. And we're like, really? Or you hear a sound and everybody's freaking out about, oh my gosh, like what's in the bush over there? And it's just all the things. But that's when I feel like we really get to know each other and let our hair down and God really like showing up in different ways for each of us and the way we're connecting with each other. And so so that's been really nice, just to have those moments that Sunday can look different every week, and it's a beautiful thing. So yeah, what about you guys? What does that look like for you?
Well, most recently, we also had a time outdoors in nature. A few weekends ago, we went camping it was the whole weekend, it included Sunday. So we did that instead of going to a typical traditional church. But the funny thing was we went with some of the pastors of our church, a married couple. It's a husband and wife. They are pastors at the church that we sometimes attend if we are at a church on a Sunday. And they've been on a sabbatical. So like they are not even themselves showing up to traditional church for like the last couple of months. So we collectively decided, why not go camping and spend time, with our kids playing and going out, being outside. And it was so fun. And we had, like you just described, on a hike or outside when you're spending time with people, it can be low key and casual and fun, but it can also turn into like really deep conversations. So, of course, while camping, we're like sitting around the campfire late at night, musing on the evangelical church and our theology with God recently. I just like all these really deep spiritual conversations and not spiritual. But yeah, it was so much fun, and that felt like a really life-giving space that was
Yeah.
deep and also just good with friends.
Does it feel different to you when those types of conversations and questions come up more organically opposed to being pushed? Does it feel like, and I don't want to say pushed.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be fair. It's not like in a small group and here's our list of questions we have to go through, which I understand like the purpose of that. But does it feel different when you're in a space like that where it's just, this is what this has come up from someone's like inner being, and they're like now presenting this to the community around them?
Yeah, totally. I think, like you're saying, it doesn't have to, but I think oftentimes when it's a formatted, programmed thing, it can feel like that. It was programmed, right? It was planned, versus it just comes up organically and naturally in life,
Right.
in a natural way. That to me really changes the texture of the conversation, but it also shifts, I think, how honest and real people seem. And not always, right? You still might have your like social guardedness up or your filters, and that's fine. But I think there is something really different. I mean, yeah, like back to our camping trip, we were sitting with our drinks and our marshmallows around a campfire with our kids who are asking honest questions about God. And so the kind of conversation that I think we had together, right? And we're with our pastors, we are former pastors and church ministers, but there was something that felt really honest about that moment. So I think so. What do you think?
I love those conversations, because sometimes when the questions are already formatted, it's kind of leading you in a certain direction. You have to really be skilled in how to like have those questions asked, that it's not trying to lead people down to a certain point.
Right.
But when it just comes up in the midst of conversation, in the midst of the doing of things and the sitting with each other, there isn't like an end goal. It's just like we're just on the journey together. And I think that's what can help promote more honesty and vulnerability when you can have those spaces. So to do that, like around the campfire with your kids after a day of activity, you're just sharing your hearts with each other. And I think that's where the richest moments come from. So
right.
that's cool.
Yeah, and I love that. And that's a great way as we enter into this conversation today. I think you and I both have our own experiences of spirituality on the margins, is how we're calling this. But I think how you just described it is what we're talking about, right? We're talking about what it looks like to really be available to spirituality and faith and community happening when it's unplanned or in real life, right?
Yeah.
And it might be in places that aren't what everybody might see as like, oh, that's obviously a sacred experience, or this is obviously for church, right? But it's happening outside of those places. I feel like in my heart, we can all resonate with that on some level. And so maybe some of the people listening into this conversation are very familiar with recognizing those spaces of spirituality in their own lives on the margins. And then we might have people who are listening in or part of this that maybe haven't really thought about that. So I think that's why you and I really were excited to open this conversation up, right? And I think our assumption is that many folks long for connection with God and others, but some people don't always find that in conventional church structures. Or maybe there's so much baggage or too many layers in those dynamics where it makes it harder. And that's some of what you're getting at, right? So maybe as we dive into the conversation, maybe you and I can both just share a little bit more about, what it's been like in our own lives to be a part of either experiencing spirituality on the margins for ourselves, or maybe there's something that comes to mind we've been a part of, maybe shaping faith community. You were describing a little bit about that in your family's life and in your home, but shaping faith community that's outside of church structure. So yeah, can you just say more about what that's been like in your own life?
Oh, wow. Well, I will say it's been quite a journey to even, I think it started with having to evaluate what I was carrying when it came to my understanding and my connection with, church. And it's like I had to do this like inventory. What is my understanding of church? Where did I learn that from? Kind of the whole like says who sort of a thing. And then once I could like see the pieces that were there, then it was just sitting with those pieces and trying to figure out which of these need to stay and which of these needs to, it's no longer for me right now, like today. Like maybe at a certain point in my walk it was, because I don't want to completely discredit that. But where I am right now, like, no, it's actually working against me. And had to do a lot of that hard work with like other people and with the Lord and discerning between, is this really like not for me for today? Or is it, I'm just like upset about something and I don't want to face the fact that I'm upset about something. Right. So like had to kind of do all of that. And then once whatever it was left with, whatever pieces were left with, it was asking the Lord, okay, now what do I do with this? And I think that's where I'm at right now. What do we want to do with these pieces now? Because we had all these pieces and this is what it built, right? Maybe a big church, big steeple, cross over here, whatever, right? Parking lot, kids, all this stuff, right? But now I have these pieces and there's less pieces. What do we want to build here? And so what it's building is more of like a circular thing. This is my faith community that I have. This is what this looks like. And it's still church, but it's just looking different. Here's an interesting, I guess, picture of it. One of the families in our community, they the way that they're raising their kids, their little one, I think he's like maybe 5 years old, and they were on a walk, and he really liked this building, and so he's like, oh, I really like this building, and it was a church. Instead of them saying to him, oh, that's a church, they were really particular in saying, that's a church building. And the reason they were saying that was because they're trying to raise their kids to think beyond the building as the church. The church is, if we really believe that the church is us, then what are we building? Like what is it that we're cultivating in community? And like that is a manifestation of church. And I just thought that was so amazing and so beautiful that they didn't make a big speech about it to him.
Yeah.
They just said, oh, that's a church building. Not that that's a church. Like that is not the sole definition of church, these buildings that we have. It's just one manifestation of it. And so that's kind of where like I'm at right now, where it's like, okay, well, what does this look like in this season? What are we cultivating? How is the church manifesting in this season of my life where I'm at right now? So that's kind of what the journey's been. And it does feel very much like the margins, because it's so often misunderstood, because we're not doing the mainstream of, traditional church and the building and all of that. So it often feels like you're like kind of tucked away here on the margins. We're the weird ones, so
The weird ones. I love
weird
it.
Ones.
In your, right. So if somebody were to come upon it, what you guys are doing in your home and in your community, not just in your home, but right in these relationships, is there a way that you describe it to somebody who may be like, oh, I'm curious. What are you folks doing together? What's the commonality, or what's the thing that draws you together to continue to do this?
Yeah. So the way I've described it when people have asked is that I say that we're a community of people who are reimagining the church experience and community with each other. And we all take ownership of the space together. We all participate. We cultivate a space where every voice is valued. It is not centered on one particular type of voice or a person. It's a space where we get to practice with each other because it's safe, And because we want to be able to go out into the world and how we engage with people, but sometimes we feel a little unsure. So we can do that with each other so that we can now go out into, the rest of the world, and how do I show up in the world. And so that's usually how I've described it. And it's interesting that you asked that, because one of the things we've decided in our community is that it's not about just inviting people to at this event, so to speak. We're very much just disciple to invite people to church, right?
Yeah.
For us, it's more of, if you know of someone that maybe you'd like, that you think that they would want to be a part of this, you go and have coffee with them, invite them for dinner. Really, you sit down and you talk with them, hear their hearts, hear where they're at, share what it is that we're doing. Do that first. And then if it's something where they oh, I'd like to come and be a part of that, well, then for sure you can invite them over. Or maybe they would say, I would love to be a part of that, I just don't know if I can make it on a Sunday morning or whatnot. Well, then you do something. And you start, maybe that's a sign for you to start building something in your home, in your community, and that you do that. So there's no pressure for people to be inviting people over. The encouragement would be, okay, maybe it's time for you to do something in your neighborhood, and now you do that thing. But we always wanted to start with a personal conversation, connection, a shared meal or something, so that, again, everybody's taking ownership. This is not this is all of us. Yeah. It's not about all I got to do is make the invitation and get them to come over, and the pastor is going to do all the heavy lifting, or the, whatever, however the structure is. No, I want to be able, I'm going to walk with this person too. And if they need help, they have a community that we can help them. But you make that connection with that person.
I love it. Yeah. I feel like how you're describing what's happening in your community is some of how Steve and I have thought about community and faith life together with others in our own lives. And it's taken on different iterations or different chapters or evolutions. And I think, at least for right now, we have a lot of different facets of our lives, a lot of different relationships, and then kind of gathering points with people. Some of it is, time at the beach, right? Or like I said, time going camping with some friends. We often have dinner spaces where we just invite a bunch of folks that we want to hang out with. And every time we do that, over food and drinks and time spent together, the real stuff of life comes up.
Right.
We get to share ourselves, or share maybe reflections from our own experiences that are maybe obviously, spiritual, and maybe not. Maybe it's just we're just kind of, riffing on things that we're processing or thinking about. But I think all of those points in our own lives, they feel to me really rich and abundant with these, beautiful encounters with other people. And they shape my own life with God, and my life with God shapes how I enter into those. So I think there is something about, removing or acknowledging and honoring the things outside of the church building space, right?
Yeah.
And I think to give it honor, no, those are really important. They're not nothing. They're not, right? They're sacred. And they're encounters with God. They can be. So I think that, to me, feels like I've seen that in a lot of different ways in our own life, that feel really interesting and draw out my own curiosity. And yes, I think back to what you were saying earlier, it causes me to really consider, what are the essential components of the faith life, right? What actually makes it sacred or holy, or things done with God.
Right.
Is it the building? Is it the church budget? Is it the quote unquote pastor person who has a degree in whatever theology? Those things are not bad. But I
exactly.
don't think they're the essentials of faith life or church.
Right.
And I think there can be a difference, right?
There's a book I'm reading right now called The Starfish and the Spirit. I might be getting that wrong. It is about a starfish, though. Starfish and the Spirit. But it's talking a lot about like micro churches and things like that. And one of the things he points out in the book is that in scripture, like the whole thing about titles, but in scripture, there isn't a focus on titles, there's a focus on your name. So, it would be, let's say, whatever, Paul the whatever, Peter the whatever. Like but it wasn't like Pastor Paul or Elder so and so. It was, this person who was an elder. This person, like the name, the person came first before the title. And we've flipped it around. And now we have the title first and then the name. And then there's people who get quite upset if you don't call them by their you don't call them, all the things that come before their name. And a part of me gets it. They've put in the work, so but for me that feels like a little bit of a barrier. It feels like you're needing to really distinguish yourself from me and like other people, which can like hinder a connection to be able to happen. This is Brenda, who happens to also like do these things, but I'm Brenda first. I'm your sister in Christ, right?
Yeah.
Larissa, a spiritual director, not spiritual director Larissa, right? Like we're people. For the focus is on us as siblings in Christ, and so. That's part of the communal aspect that I like, and that happens like you said when you're sharing meals or you're on the beach or you're just like in your raw self. I'm just a human being. I put my pants on one leg at a time every day like everybody else, right? I mean, like everybody else. Well, maybe some people do it, two legs at the same time. Scoot in there on the
They just hop on in.
Just hop on in. Pretty gifted. Let me know how you do it, but
Yeah, no, totally. And I think some of what you're getting at is like there's oftentimes in what we might call traditional church building spaces and structures a hierarchy that does put a lot of focus and attention on credentials, titles, and all that. That, for what it's worth, I'm not like downgrading that or downplaying that, but
not at all.
but I think sometimes that gets elevated to the point of that's somebody's identity in this space, which I know so many pastors, people with pastoral lead pastor roles who are so burned out, and I wonder, I'm not going to speak for all of them, but I wonder if some of the pressure is that their identity in most of their community spaces is just that, and not really giving space for them, like you're describing, to be just human people, humans with needs, humans with limits, right? Humans, not these like elevated celebrity leader idols. I don't know. That to me sounds like so pressurized for those folks. And then, like weird for relationship with people, with one another, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. That's where my mind is going. But
no, but
I guess
just to that point, I've thought about that too, and it's a grieving that I hold, because I also can't help but wonder how much of that has lent a hand to when we see leaders and pastors, fall, so to speak. And it's not like this is their get out of jail free card kind of a thing. Like at the end of the day, they make the decisions that they've made. They have to own that.
right.
But that's a lot of pressure. And that can happen, I think, in any career, right? That we take on the identity of what it is that we do.
Yeah.
I think what happens is that when we think within the faith in our church context is probably the place that you would think it wouldn't happen, because it's so focused on us as like human beings and our souls and our hearts, but yet it is happening in our context, and that's gotta get us to asking these hard questions as to why is this happening? What is going on with the structure that it is lending? The system is actually lending towards things not being healthy. Is not as conducive
Right.
towards us having healthy relationships, especially if we are in ministry on staff. It's just like it's just so intense, the weight that they're carrying. So
Yeah.
everything, and I think both of us have said this several times already, everything that we're talking about is not with a judgmental heart. I think is with a heart that is grieving for those that are feeling this weight. I think both you and I have sat with people who pastors and leadership that are this is weighing heavy on them, and they're getting burned out or are burned out.
Yeah.
I think what we're talking about is this the exploring of, could there be a different way? And it takes a bit of a pioneer to get out there and explore when there's already this established town over here, but you're seeing some things that really aren't healthy. And as much as you want to be able to fix some of the things, maybe you can't fix it if you're living in it. You have to go out, kind of figure out some things, and maybe you can come back and bring some health, but we need to go and look and learn some different ways of doing this. And so that's why I was really excited about having this conversation, because I think there's some things that we can learn on the margins.
Absolutely. And I wonder, maybe we can both kind of talk about a little bit about how, as we've moved further out into the margin, so to speak, how we've seen for ourselves or others in our communities, like how that can actually be liberating or fertile soil for spiritual formation, where there's more space for, like you're saying, freedom and experimentation. So yeah, I don't know. How have you felt that for yourself? Maybe let's begin there. Like, what has that done for you and your own faith life and your own soul to be able to explore in that kind of way?
So for me personally, it was me doing some spring cleaning, I guess you would call it, of my connection with leadership. And it'd be constantly, if I was facilitating our time together on a Sunday morning for our community, it was this constant wrestling with these like voices in the back of my head telling me how it's supposed to happen. And then there's be these other voices that were saying, it doesn't always need to happen that way. It's okay. Just, facilitate, just open the floor for conversation. And so there was this wrestling where I had to like eventually break away from, not everything has to be so polished all the time. Like, it's okay. So that was one for me. In our community, several people have talked about how one of the biggest things was them starting to reconnect faith and their physical bodies. Like that was a big thing for them, because we would always incorporate centering practices. Things like when we would open up, it wasn't always like an immediate like opening in prayer and then music and whatnot. It was a sitting and, bringing awareness to like our breath and our bodies that God created, and the sounds around us. And then there would be maybe a breath prayer that we would just welcome God into the space, and it would just be quiet. Or, the song, we listen to a song when we'd have the lyrics, and then we talk about whoever brought the song. What made you bring that song? How did you connect with that? Instead of just moving on to the next thing. And maybe that would start a conversation. So that was one of the big things, that they were starting to feel like their faith was connecting with their bodies, and they had always felt that those were two separate things. And so they could carry this with them. Others loved the fact, and this was, I think, mostly our young adults that are with us, that they could ask questions that they felt that they knew.
Yeah.
That in the context they were coming from, they could not ask those questions, that they couldn't push back. They couldn't say, I don't know if I see it quite that way. And little by little, they started to feel like they had the freedom to do it. And no one is raising an eyebrow. Like, everyone was like, okay, let's explore that.
Yeah.
let's see where we land on that one, you know? And so those were all like really just new experiences of engaging in faith as a community. Like you're legitimately on the journey together, and we're going to help each other out as we go. And so everybody has something to bring to that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so that's been one of, like, I think I could go on and on and on, but that's probably the ones that come to the surface for me that have just been a beautiful thing to experience. And so I'm sure, like, for you guys, with all the ways that you've engaged with your community, I love being able to hear those stories. Especially, I think, is there something that you also do? Is it during Thanksgiving that you invite people over for, like, it's just like an open door? Like, what has that been like for you guys, and just connecting with faith in like all those different ways?
Yeah. Right. For Thanksgiving, it's been our tradition to, we of course have family that lives nearby. So we host a meal together with family, but we also have oftentimes every year, there are people who don't have family locally, right? That's such a family oriented gathering
Yeah.
point in the year. So at some point we just started like inviting everybody who needed a space to experience family. That's how we framed it.
Yeah.
And inevitably we'd have neighbors or random friends that we had just met the week before, or friends of friends.
Wow.
We tell everybody like, bring whoever you feel like should have a space, right? And it always ends up being this motley crew of people. And I mean, another part of our tradition is at some point through the meal, we inevitably talk about like what has been life-giving, or what's bringing us joy, what are we grateful for, right? And I think a lot of people do that around Thanksgiving, but we kind of make that the, I don't know, a point of everybody sharing and everybody getting to hear from one another.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's my favorite part of the meal, because you get this like lovely, just like really honest people sharing, like from the kids to the elders, right? And just the different generations and the different life experiences. And it's always such a diverse community that, of course, it's going to end up being like a diverse thing, level of sharing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, to me, that's been really beautiful. And I love what you're describing. Like, are there places in community where people to ask and engage in real questions, like real curiosities? That experience of faith and God and one another just feels so vibrant to me. Like, what if that was church, right? I mean, that is church. That's what we're saying, right? But like, what if that was everybody's experience of every church moment? That there was a level of, it's cool to have your questions because we all have questions. And what if we paused on somebody's question and allowed that to be the conversation, not some, oh, that was like an interruption or a disruption to the flow of the program, which,
right.
wow, that's crazy to me but that's what it feels like sometimes,
Right.
or maybe all the time when it's like a structured, programmed church service, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I love
Which
that
I
you're
get,
describing
like, if
that.
you have like a certain number of people, like, can you always just be going on to like down a rabbit trail and whatnot? So I, again, I get that, why, the bigger you are, you need that kind of a structure. But that's why we feel good about where we're at, and having it to be like a smaller gathering, and encouraging people to, like, not just bring more, but start a gathering where you're at, and it can look a certain way there, because we have the freedom to be able to, maybe this rabbit trail is the Holy Spirit's leading. Maybe we're supposed to engage in this question that this person's carrying very heavily right now. That's what and we have the freedom to do it. I mean, what a beautiful thing to be like led in that way, to be able to do those things. So, yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it.
I get it, it only works in certain like spaces, and so I understand that, but I think that's part of why we're really enjoying that that's what this space looks like.
Right, right. And I wonder, I mean, even as you and I right here in this moment are sharing about our different experiences, I feel like that's already giving me a sense of, oh, like there are a million different ways we could live this out in our friendships or our relationships, whether
Yep.
it's with one person in front of us or 30 people in our living room, right? So there's
Right.
such a variety, but I think it, like you said, I think it takes somebody being courageous enough to say, like, let's shift the expectation for what this could be, right? Or let's
Right.
give one another permission to be honest with what's happening in our lives, and like giving, I think, appropriate space for that to
Right.
breathe and to happen. So to me, as I'm saying that, like, that's so ridiculously simple, but I think it takes an intentional choice sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, am I going to be able to do that? Can I do that with this friend or in this at this dinner table, right? And
Yeah.
I think there's a level of when we find that we can, I don't know, like acknowledge it or like kind of lean into that or something, and maybe repeat it, right? Like
Right.
for Steve and I and our family, like we love hosting dinners. So, and we've known that because we did it once and we're like, let's do that again. It's so maybe it's that inkling, right? Like that was
Yeah.
interesting, so let's continue that.
Yeah. And you guys are super fun. Like you're just super fun. Like I remember sitting at the table, Gersten and I sitting at your dining table with you, and just the way that the two of you lean into conversation, and even like your physical posture and the space that you hold. Like I can just see you guys hosting these times of breaking bread together, and it just feeling so comfortable, so relaxed. Like we just felt at home there, like, and with your kids, like this the environment that you guys have, it just there's like a blessing that is there when people walk in, and so I can totally see that happening, you having all these people there that maybe they're connected, they're not connected, but people immediately feeling like, oh, I'm a part of, I'm not trying to break my way in. As I put my foot over the threshold of this door, I became a part of. And you guys just have that spirit within you, which I honestly think is a gift. I don't think everybody has that. Sometimes I feel challenged in that because I can get too caught up in wanting everything to be just right. And I know that about myself. But then I see people like you guys where you're just you just this is a way about you that it makes someone like me feel relaxed, who might feel a little on edge of like, I got to make sure I'm doing everything just right. And then I see you guys like, oh, I can breathe. I can take a chill pill right here. It's okay, Brenda. It's okay. I don't want to break anything.
Well, that's the gift of friendship, being with people who, yeah, have a different way of like being in the world. I love that. Well, I would love, so I feel like we could talk about this for hours. And maybe this is a topic, if it feels like we want to return back to, then of course we can do that because this is our podcast and we can do whatever we want.
This
But
is
I would
Serene-ish. You have a plan, and then the goat comes in. We're changing the plan.
That's right. Well, just, yes. And given that, I do want to remind our listeners, if you want to be a part of this conversation, we would love to have you connect with us more on Substack. So we're on Substack and we've mentioned it in every other episode, but that's really a space where we would love to hear from other folks. Like, how are you engaging in your own spiritual life on the margins? Like, what does that look like for you? Or if you're listening into this conversation, like thinking, oh, I have an idea of something maybe to try in my community or my relationships, I would love to hear about that. And we would love to continue that discussion. So
What a
I think
great
there's
idea.
that, right? But I wonder, as we're kind of like, kind of starting to wrap up this conversation for today, are there any, if we have people who are listening into this who are like, oh, I would love to explore this more in my own life. So I think you were kind of getting at that a little bit, Brenda. But are there other, I don't know, encouragements or invitations or even just really practical ideas that you have for folks who are like, oh, I want this more and I don't quite know a step to take. What are some steps folks could take?
Yeah. Oh man, that's a good question. I would encourage someone to start dreaming first. The question of, well, how would I want this to look like? Instead of focusing first on everything you don't want.
Yeah.
So we'll start with the dreaming, because I feel that dreaming sparks adventure within our bodies, and that's a beautiful energy that I think we can carry. And it gives us a little bit more perspective, opposed to maybe some of the, if you want to call it negative, it kind of like pulls us down.
Yeah.
And if you're already thinking about wondering if this could look different, it's probably being triggered by something that is like making you an awareness of, I don't know that this is all it, right?
Yeah.
So maybe just to start dreaming of, how would this look? What would you want this to look like? And just dream with the Lord on that. And then, the whole thing of unpacking of like, hey, what are the things that I've been carrying on me that I don't really think that are for me anymore? And to do that alongside somebody else as well. So, because, and to find who that person is that has a certain understanding of what this journey is like, is, they've gone through some aspects of this journey with you. Because that was really helpful for me to have someone where they haven't done the full journey, but they were maybe just a few steps ahead of me on this journey, and they could encourage me and remind me I'm not losing my faith, I'm not going crazy, like I'm not falling off my rock or nothing, like this is okay, reminding me all the ways that I do engage with the Lord and like all of that. So making sure that you have at least like one or two people that can be partnering with you in this journey. And then I would just say, just go and try it. Just grab a couple people, get together, be honest, and just say, I have no idea what we're doing, but let's just try something. Let's have a meal. Let's see how that goes. Okay, we liked it. We didn't like it. Let's go to a park. Did we like it? No. Let's meet in the home. Did we like it? No. Like, you don't have any like overhead. You don't have people to pay. You don't have any, you have nothing. So this is the fun part.
Yeah.
Of experimenting and just trying it. And if you'll find the thing that fits, and that's the thing that you just like, then you just keep exploring and let that grow. So that's like a really condensed like version of what I would encourage somebody to do.
I love that. No, that is perfect. I don't think I would add anything to that, right? Because I think what you described is like just giving space for your imagination and creativity. And even if you pause and you ask those questions, like, what do I want, right? Like, how do I want to engage with God and community and faith? And you're like, I have no idea. Well, at least you floated the question out there. So maybe you're a little stuck on that. Just stay stuck. It's okay.
Yes.
Right? Like, I think I don't know. There's something that happens when we put something out for ourselves, when you give yourself at least permission to ask a question or kind of follow some curiosity, and then sometimes the answer isn't immediate. I'm just saying that from my own experiences. Like sometimes I'm marinating on the same question for like days or weeks, and I don't know what the next step is. It's okay. Like don't panic. Just stay there. And then the next step will emerge, or the next dream, or the next idea, or you'll have a little inkling. I think that's how creativity often happens and unfolds. So that's the only thing I would add. But I love the process of how you're describing. Like you go for it and you try something. If it feels like it fits, great. If you want to make adjustments, go for it. Like you said, there's no barriers.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I would hope that people have no barriers to this.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad that you encourage people that whole thing of feeling stuck on that question, like that's okay. Like I think that's so important, because I think we've been taught in a certain way. We have to have an answer. We have to have a clear answer. There's no movement without an answer. But I believe that in just standing in that one spot, there's still energy that's flowing in your body for you to stand in that one spot. There's still activity that's happening in there. And so this place of being stuck is the pause. It is the throwing out of that question of, well, what would this look like? And just like you said, it's not until we throw that out there that I think something opens within us to discover and to like notice when it actually happens in front of us. Like, you know, I was in the theater the other day. Our family went to see the movie, what is it? The K-pop Demon
Demon Hunters?
Yes. I saw it on whatever, you know, Netflix or whatever it was on, and then they were going to do the sing-along in the movie theater, I wanted to go. So the whole family went. We dragged Gerson because he actually asked, can I get out of it? And all of us were like, are you crazy? So it's, you know, Gerson and I are young adult, like kids, you know, mid-20s, and we're in there with a theater full of kids. And they're singing their hearts out. And I don't know if you've heard the lyrics of these songs.
Multiple times.
Girl, I was crying. Like there were tears because I'm like, these are words of like of hope that there's, and whether they're totally recognizing it or not, it was like a church moment for me.
Yeah.
It was a moment. But me throwing out the question and allowing it to be out there is what's opened my eyes to the discovering and being aware of the moments that this is happening. And that I could it wasn't just all these cute kids singing these songs. It felt like, you know, God is here. And whether they get it or not, he's hearing them singing from the top of their lungs as a prayer for them. And it was super cute and really filling my spirit all at the same time.
Yay.
So I loved it.
Well, I love that. That's such a great expression of something that we're talking about, right? Like connecting with God, ourselves, and other people, and in a way that moves us or shapes our journey or speaks to us in some way and unleashes life or joy or creativity or something. So yes, I love that. One of the things we've been doing too is hosting these little movie nights, and it's with some of our closest friends, but we'll watch a movie and then once the movie's done, we sit around and talk about how that movie moved us. And it's like, it's that simple.
Oh, I love
Recently,
that.
Have you seen the movie Sinners?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Okay, well, we can talk more about that at some point. But that watching that film with one of our close friends, this is like 2 weeks ago or something. It was like, it was one of those movies, at least for me, like that spoke really deep things in my spirit and body. And we just, we like hung out for a couple hours, like musing on it and talking about what different scenes did in us and what we were more curious about after that movie. Anyway, it ended up being really, really special.
Oh,
and
I love that. What a great idea.
Yeah, it was fun.
Oh my gosh.
That can be church.
You gotta zoom me in.
Oh yeah. Next time. Well, let's wrap up because, you know, we could be chatting about this for a long time, but I love the practical invitations that we're giving to folks. And like I said, we could continue this conversation beyond this one episode, but maybe as we wrap up, what is something you've been doing recently that's giving you life? So this could be a book, a show you're watching, some other activity. You've talked about a lot of things, but is there something specific that comes to mind? Like, what's been really giving you life recently? Let's end there.
Yeah. So I've been practicing where I get up in the morning and trying to do this rhythm of before I pick up my phone, it's a going out like and touching the grass kind of a thing. Like just to go out, like just like touch the planet, touch the earth, get some water in me. And then I've been using this app called Pray As You Go, and it's by the Jesuits. And so then I just have that on as either I'm getting ready or I'm stretching or something like that. So that right now has been what I've been doing. In a month from now, that might change. That's very much how I'm wired, where it's good for as long as it's good, and then I can do something else, which is like, I need the freedom. That's what keeps me going. But right now, that has really been the thing for me. And I think because I feel like there's so much that's going on in my life, and there's so many, like, this is a season of a lot of heavy decisions that impact other people, that I can get really overwhelmed. I carry these things on my body very heavily, and I know this. And I was starting to feel myself getting like tired physically, like I'm ready to go to sleep a lot earlier than normal. And so I've been trying to implement different rhythms to more gently come into my day. So before you hit the phone, go outside, touch the grass, water, cup of coffee, something that just reminds me, keep yourself grounded. So yeah.
Those feel like really lovely daily centering spaces. Or yeah, like you're saying, grounding, literally grounding, touching the earth.
Yeah.
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 That's beautiful.
How about you?
For me, it's been harder in this stage of life to, like, I think, like you're describing, like reset or stay centered.
Yeah.
And I do that. I have little daily practices, but earlier last week, I realized I need a full day to do this. And so I just chose Sunday. So this past Sunday, but I blocked it out in my schedule or in my planner, like Sunday is my rest day. Now, in order to actually honor that space, and what I meant by that, there was like a specific way I was thinking about it. I needed to unplug from media, phone, email, all the things that are like digital work related stuff. So I needed to like kind of unplug from those things to be able to have a little bit of space from those things. I also wanted to do as many like around our house. I always feel like I'm just cleaning up after people or resetting the house. And that's fine because I like curating my space. And you and I have talked about this, like restful space is a big factor for me in my environment. But I realized I want to keep that day away from things that weren't ultra important or urgent. So in order to actually protect that Sunday, I kind of reverse engineered, like, well, what do I need to do or what do I want to do on Friday and Saturday leading up so that I can really mentally, emotionally, and spiritually rest. And it was the first time I've done that in that kind of way, like really intentionally planning for it so that I could rest well. And have Sunday be just for creative things and playing with my kids and fun, just life-giving things.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing a version of that I really loved. And I don't think I did it perfectly. I think there'd be a little bit of adjustments that I would do for next time. But to me, that it was like, it took a full day of like, I let myself nap for a little bit. I was reading a book. I did some painting. I did all the things that like just bring me life and joy, but that aren't like on my to-do list. You know what I mean? Which was very restful and restorative. And I felt like, especially the playing with my kids thing, like sometimes I'm so busy doing other things that I'm like, I'll play with you later, right? Or I'll do this thing later. But I had a whole day, so.
I love that.
It was really nice.
I love that. You made your own like retreat kind of a day. Like you chose the things you're going to retreat from and the things that created space for you to lean into.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Brenda. This has been a delightful conversation, and thank you, listeners. We're so grateful for folks who are tuning in to these podcasts, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
See you next time.